Hi everyone, and welcome back to the Paphos project. Now, this video needs a bit of an introduction on it because it's pretty epic, both in length and in the content that's in it. Now, the reason for that is because originally this was supposed to just be a quick refresh of the kitchen. Bit of paint on the cupboards, a few bits and pieces here and there. It's ended up turning into a full-blown kitchen renovation. Now, I'm incredibly proud of the final result on this, and it just didn't seem right to split the video up into 2 or 3 parts just for the sake of keeping the content format a bit shorter. So I decided, to hell with it, I'm gonna make one giant video. I don't expect everybody to watch the entire thing. I think it's like an hour and 15 minutes at this point. But I am incredibly proud of the final result, and I wanted to put it all into one big chunk. So I hope you stick through and watch it. I appreciate the support. Thanks as always for continuing to watch and stay with me on the project. Alright, I've reached a bit of an inflection point, really, with a lot of stuff. I'm waiting on the electrician, as I've mentioned before, to finalize all the electrics that I've done to make sure they're all up to code and safe. Now, until that's done, I can't fill in any of the last bits of concrete and whatever and seal things off just in case I need to get to them or I've done something really stupid. So that stuff's on hold for the next couple of days, probably until the beginning of next week. Right, so that means I have an opportunity to start on this kitchen. Now, I'm not remodeling the whole kitchen. What I am doing though is I'm putting in new plumbing, I'm going to put a new sink in, I'm moving the cupboards, I'm going to probably vinyl wrap things, I'm just going to freshen it up. Now, I've removed the oven already, I've removed the oven hood, I've got a new cooker to go in, a nice new gas hob with a wok burner, but that's for later. First off, removing cupboards. Now, to remove the cupboards, I have to get these things down. I believe they're all in 2 pieces, basically from there to there, and then from there to the end. They're pretty heavy. I am also on my own, so I'm going to have to be extra careful, extra safe. First things first, take the doors off, empty them, figure out exactly where they're bolted to the wall and how they're bolted together, then carefully and safely take them all apart and then lift them down and get them off the wall. Once I've got that done, I can figure out what I'm doing next. With that done, I can get the last of the tiles removed. There's not a lot left. They're pretty busted up in places. I've already moved quite a few of them for the electrics, but we're going to remove the rest. I've got fresh tiles already in storage, so I can get rid of all of those, and then that can be prepped for tiling. Next is plumbing. For the kitchen, that basically means a new drain for the sink, new inlets for the tap for hot and cold water, and then we're going to be running some water lines for the washer and dishwasher. That's going to go over that side, so that's going to be a whole separate piece. But I need to remove the old tiles, I need to remove the old sink, and then we're going to put a new countertop on as well. But anyway, as I said, first things first, cupboards. Let's get these off the wall and see what we're working with. Empty kitchen! And idiot who forgot to press record on the time lapse. Yeah, so sorry about that. Quick reveal. It's amazing how big this kitchen is. I completely forgot. I've had the fridge sitting here, the washing machine here for the last about 4 months, and it's amazing what a difference it makes to just have everything out of the way. Doors are off, everything's numbered up and put away. A few things need to get put in storage, but in the meantime, the local builders, sorry, that's why I'm a little out of breath, they let me borrow these. I've just lugged these up the stairs. Big old square, nice and level lumps of stone. I'm going to use those as a base to get the height right on the shelves when I, 1, take them down, and then 2, put them back up. So that also gives me a time frame, because I've got to have these back by Monday. It is now Thursday, so gives me a few days to get this job done, which is good. Gives me a bit of a time crunch deadline to get finished by. Okay, I'm going to crack on. Hopefully everything goes safe and nothing goes wrong. Fingers crossed. First shelf is away from the wall. Now, in a little sign, I'm going to take it as a positive one. I think that's the Virgin Mary, just dropped out from behind the shelf. So, whilst I may not be religious myself, I'm going to take that as a sign of good luck and continue on. I think we're good. The problem with these things I have realized, however, though, is that unfortunately they don't have a lowering function per se. So this will be extra interesting, but little help from above won't go amiss. So here we go. Okay, please. Fingers. Ow. Okay, one of my fingers. Look. Woo! Yay! Slow me down. The fun and games continue. Somehow the second file of me pulling down the other half of the kitchen cabinet has corrupted. Anyway, it's down, it's there, it's all ready to go. I had initially planned to vinyl wrap these, but in doing a bit more research, it's actually going to be better for me to paint them. Now there is a bit of a process involved, and because it involves sanding, then priming, then multiple coats, and then drying in between each of those steps, it's going to take a few days to get that done. So I can be getting on with other stuff while I'm doing that. So what I've done is I've cleared out the lounge. Now I've got plenty of room in here to take those cupboards. I've got a couple of trestle tables, or 4 of them. I'm going to set these up in here, and then I'm going to have a tarp down for the floor, and then I'm going to seal these off with, they're not tarps, they're like painter lays, something. Big plastic sheets, anyway. And then that way I can be doing stuff in here, and I can be doing dusty things in here, and this can be a clean painting room. So I'm going to crack on with that now, and then I can get started on, first off, cleaning those with some sugar soap and water, letting that dry, scraping off all the old, I don't know if that's wallpaper, I'm not sure, there's some stuff stuck to the top that's flaking apart. So we'll get rid of all that, prep the shelves, then let them dry. While that's happening, I'm going to get rid of some of this old plaster in preparation for the new tiles, get rid of the old tiles in the corner there. And then I will be going back and forth between the rooms. So hopefully less camera video failures and more action. So let's get going.
Here's that laminate cover that was glued to the top of the cupboards, along with years and years worth of kitchen grease and dust that had actually solidified. After trying to peel it off, I realized pretty quickly that this was going to require something a bit more intense. So out came the heat gun and bladed scraper tool, which made life a lot easier.
That's the prep done. The Shelves are all stripped back as much as I can. I've taken the fittings off, I've taken the shelves themselves out. I've given it a good dust, a wipe, a clean. I've also scraped off all of the decades old rubber vinyl laminate stuff that was still on top, which I'm assuming was there to stop from getting dirty. But over the years it just sort of perished and it was just a bit of a mess, but the heat gun got rid of it, so that's good. They don't look too bad. They're actually really well made. They are plywood MDF, but they've been really well put together. They're solid units, so I think there's a lot of potential here. My next step is to clean them now in preparation for the painting and sanding and painting. In order to do that, I'm gonna just give them once over with some just Astonished kitchen cleaner and paper towels and get the worst of the grime off. And then it's on with the sugar soap. The problem with the sugar soap is that I need hot water. Now, I don't have hot water. My immersion heater and my pump, although I have wired them up, are not certified. I don't want to flick the breaker on those until they are certified. My electrician said everything's wired up right, because that's a very expensive mistake to make, and I really can't afford to be replacing water pumps or boilers or whatever. Anyway, so I can't use it, so I'm gonna have to bring a kettle tomorrow if he doesn't make it today. But for now, I'm gonna crack on with getting the shelves nice and clean as much as I can with just the brush and everything, and then we'll see where we stand.
While the entire cupboard was pretty grimy, this was unsurprisingly the worst part. It was where the cooker hood had been, and as you can see, the grease and grime was so bad it actually penetrated the tough shell of the cupboard. It also made it pretty clear that the wrap was a terrible idea, because the heat from cooking would have probably melted or at least ruined the wrap in short order. Now let's get rid of the last of these towels before removing the old taps and pipes from the walls, so that I can have a proper look at the plaster behind them and figure out what to do next.
Welcome to Dexter's Kill Room. Yeah, it looks a bit creepy, but it's so that the dust and general grime from the other rooms while I'm working on them doesn't come in here. I have cleaned off all of the worst of the grime. I just used the standard cleaning Astonished spray stuff. I got rid of some really old caked on grease and grime and just nastiness. There was also a bunch of the old adhesive still left that obviously been left after I've removed the main vinyl wrap from the cupboards with the heat gun. So I just got rid of all that. I shined like a light on it to get a really good view. I think I've got like 98% of it off. Might be a little bit left, but we'll deal with that later. And now I need to do a degreasing clean using this stuff, this concentrated sugar soap. I need to mix that with some warm water. I now have warm water. And then I need to give this 2 sets of cleans. Full clean once, let it dry, clean it again. Once that's done, I need to sand all of this. I've got some sanding discs and a hand sander clip so that I can get into the edges properly. Get it all sanded back so that I've got a good surface for the primer to adhere to. That's the next phase. Then I need to prime all of this, and then it needs 2 coats of paint. And then these cupboard frames should be good. Once I've done that, I get to move on to all the doors. And then, after those are done, I get to do the rest of the cupboards, the underneath part, but that will happen later. As for the rest of the cupboards in the kitchen, they're getting left for now. That's the thing for later on. I will deal with that once the kitchen is ready and we're good to go in there. I just don't think it's worth trying to do them now. They're just gonna get dirty as I do the other work. So let's get this done. All right, Monday, time to get back to it. So last week I obviously got these shelves off the wall, got them all clean and ready and prepped. So now it is time to sand. I have to get everything nice and roughed up so the primer adheres to it properly. And then I will put the primer on, and then fingers crossed we will be able to get the first layer of paint on there today. So I'm going to get into it and just get going. Primer is on. Both main cabinets are now fully sanded, clean, primed, ready for paint. I have my paint over there, which is a kind of a dark gray semi-gloss paint. I think it should look really good. I hope it will. It should go with the general color scheme that I'm going for in the house, which you'll get to see at some point, I hope. But what I'm gonna use that far corner at the back there, because that goes flush up against that side. So if it's terrible or I just really don't like it, I don't have to resand and re-prime an area that is exposed. So we'll have a go at that now. I'm excited. I hope this turns out, because these cabinets could end up looking really, really cool. So let's crack on. So I've never really been one for doing things manually when I can use a tool to do it instead. So after having messed about with rollers on this thing and frankly being not super impressed with not just my own skill but also the finish, I realized I have paint sprayer. I was going to use this for the walls at some point, but then I thought, well, let's try it out now. I mean, that's what it's for. So I'm going to give this a try. I'm going to fill the paint in here. I've done the measurement. It should be okay. It should fit. It's the right kind of paint. It's water-based. Then I should be able to spray. So this could go horribly wrong. But if it does, at least it'll be kind of funny. Or it could save me a little time. It'd be really nice. So I'm going to have a go, and we'll see how it works out. So, that didn't really work. I was being all clever. Yeah, so the paint spray gun required a certain viscosity for the paint. It came with like a little measuring jug thing. So I did the measurement. It said it was too thick, so I thought, okay, I don't know if I can thin it down, but I looked on the instructions for the paint and then thinned it down as per the instructions from the manufacturer. It went on great. Just had a great old time. Covered the area really quickly, did the whole thing in like 5 minutes instead of like 40 minutes. And thought, yeah, great, this is good. And then come in today to, well, this. It's a complete disaster. This is the stuff nightmares are made of. It's just a giant, horrible mess. So yeah, I guess today is gonna be wipe out all the old crap. We're gonna have to put that aircon on for the first time in here and get some heat in here to get it to dry out a bit quicker, so it doesn't damage the wood on the cupboard. And then I'm gonna have to sand it again, then I'm gonna prime it again, and this time we're just gonna paint it with the roller, with the thick paint, and we're just not bothering with this thing, because not worth it. So, fun! I'm gonna just get on with this and suck it up. See you in a bit. Alrighty, so we've learned some important lessons. Lesson number one, go see a specialist. Don't take general advice from a general person in the general hardware superstore. So went and spoke to a recommended specialist in paints, and he gave me a bit more information. So first off, this isn't laminate, it's a thing called Formica, which was popular in the 70s and 80s, and is a little bit more, it's a bit different to work with than the laminate. Anyway, what he said was, number one, which I was doing, but number one, make sure you really sanded it properly. So we're gonna do that again. Number two, use this primer instead of the white paint primer. It's a transparent primer. When it dries, goes hard, and it will create a much better bonding and adhesion surface for the paint to go onto. Number two, or next lesson, use furry fuzzy brushes, not foam brushes. Foam brushes leave bubbles, and that might explain the sort of dimpled look as well. They said use these, they'll be much better. And take your time with the coats, which I sort of was doing, except when I went and did this nightmare, but we're not talking about this anymore. So what I'm going to do, just to make sure, is I'm now going to use this one little door. I'm going to sand this panel back, then I'm going to clean it, then I'm going to prime it. I'm going to leave that to dry. Hopefully that should dry in about 3 or 4 hours. I've got the whole day in the house again. I've also got aircon, so I can make it a little bit warmer in here. That'll help. And then while that's drying, I'm gonna do a bit more sanding on this just to really get as much of the old crap off as possible and make sure that it's ready for my first row of the primer. Okay, so I'm gonna get on with that now, and I hope it works out a bit better than the last one, so it should be fun. See you in a bit. Right, it's been about 4.5 hours since I put this coat on. It looks completely dry. Feels a bit dusty actually. It is a bit dusty. Okay, yeah, I think that's just general dust from in the room, so we're gonna wipe that down, and then I'm gonna have a try at doing a layer of the paint and see how it goes. Alright, here we go. Might be onto a winner here, you know. Test piece has come out great. Really nice finish, smooth, good coverage, no bobbly bits or bits missing. I mean, obviously it needs another coat, but for one coat, this thing looks awesome. Primer is done, it's dry. I even used a LED torch while I was putting it on to try and make sure I didn't miss any spots. I'm gonna go for it. I'm gonna put the paint on now. I hope it works out as well as the test piece. If it does, I'm going to be a very happy camper. So I'm going to just get on with it now.
With a combined nearly 50 cupboard doors and shelves, I needed to expand the painting area, which meant cleaning the kitchen again and setting up some extra surfaces to stop the paint from getting contaminated while it dries. With that done, I arranged as many pieces as I could and got ready for the next painting effort.
Wow, okay, it is Saturday afternoon. It's been a busy week, but these cupboards are looking great. Learned a couple of really important lessons. One, really just take your time a lot more, be a lot more methodical, which I know sounds silly and obvious, but you kind of just get into a flow and next thing you know you're rushing. So just, you know, step back, take your time. And also when I say step back, actually literally step back and have a look. One of the best things for that, I've realized, is this. It's just a little like torch thing, but because it's got a broad LED strip, I can go through and I can really see where I've missed spots or where there's imperfections. That's been really, really handy. The other thing that I realized is the smaller brush is by far better. I assume it's something to do with being able to more evenly apply pressure maybe, but definitely this one over the bigger ones. Game changer. Really, really great. That's pretty much it. So I need to now leave these to dry. That's the second coat. I think they're done as far as the cupboards are concerned. I've just sanded all of the doors, so I'm going to prime those tomorrow. And then on Monday, oh actually I might not tomorrow because tomorrow's Carnival in Cyprus. So probably Monday I'll prime those, and then I can get those painted, and then once they're done, I can move on to the lower cupboards, because hopefully I'm getting my kitchen counter next week as well. And that's the very last thing I need to get for the house. And then it's literally just finishing things off, fitting lights, getting the floors cleaned and done up, and then painting. And then we might be able to actually move in. So I am gonna go for a cocktail at my friend's beach bar and enjoy my evening. So thanks as always for watching, and I will see you next week. Kind of got ahead of myself there a little bit. I forgot to mention, obviously I still need to tile the kitchen, fit the kitchen, and tile and fit the bathroom as well. So whilst yes, the kitchen counter is the last thing that I need to get for the house, there's still plenty of work going on and still plenty to do before I can move it. But anyway, progress is good. I'm happy. I've had a good week. So once again, see you next week.
And here we go on another Monday. The weeks are just flying by while I'm doing this work. Time to get cracking on the doors and shelves. Each one has to be cleaned, sanded, cleaned again, then primed with the acrylic primer, and finally 2 coats at least of paint. With each of these steps being done about 50 times, this turned into quite the production line. But it was really satisfying, with each piece coming up great and making the disasters of the past slowly fade a little.
So at this point I've gone through all the drawers and they're all pretty good, except for the two for the kitchen. They've both got some issues. Now for some reason they used a different sideboard than for these ones, which is a lot tougher. This is some kind of much cheaper MDF, and it has not stood up to time very well. The problem is as well, because it's by the kitchen, I'm guessing it's had a bit more moisture. I did have some horrible liner in here, which I'm gonna have to replace. But this drawer in particular is a bit fucked. So, unfortunately, the nails, again, I'm guessing because of the moisture, the nails and screws that were in it are really rusty. And that has in turn caused some issues with the wood. So first off, underneath, this is all very discolored. So if you compare that to these, which the wood is lovely and nice and fine, this is what they're like on all of them. This is just unpleasant. And you can see all the rusty nails and everything. Not nice, not good. Although it's still pretty well solid, so it's not too bad. But what's happened here as well is this. So this has now fully detached, and as you can see, rusty, not good. So we're gonna have to try and fix that. So I think first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna take these nails out and replace those, and then we're gonna try and fix this with some new nails in here. So let's see how we go. Right, in the ongoing theme of how hard can stuff be, that is the way of things on the Paphos project, I've decided to try my hand at some carpentry. The reason for that is I pulled these drawers out of the kitchen cabinet. Unfortunately, they were under the sink. Seems to have absorbed a lot of moisture over the years, and because of that, the screws and nails in the back here were completely rusted through. This wood is rotten and falling apart. As you can see there, it's in a pretty bad state. I happen to have some pallets downstairs from when all the concrete and rubble was delivered for the rebar, for the bathroom slab, sorry. And because I thought, well, surely I should be able to cut those to size, fit them onto this, and then make some new drawers. So I'm going to try doing that now. See how it goes. Could be interesting. overarching theme of trying to figure out stuff while I go, that is the ethos of the Pathos project. I realized that getting the inside of these drawers sanded and painted and everything was going to be a huge pain in the butt. And then I realized that I still had the vinyl wrap that I had initially planned to wrap the cupboards with. It's pretty much the same color as the actual paint that I've been using. It's a little bit darker, but that's okay because it's going to go inside the drawers. So I have had a quick attempt. Now I have to just use, what I have lying around. So I used like an old credit card or a room key from a hotel and a couple of other bits. And while it's okay, it's obviously not worked properly because that card actually scratched the vinyl, and then when I was redoing, so that part of it ripped a little bit. But as a first attempt, it's not bad. You can see in the clip here, it's okay. So I reckon the proof of concept should be fine. I have now gone out and bought myself a vinyl wrapping squeegee, very professional. This should stop it from getting scratched and make life getting into the easier. I've also bought a handy dandy little small knife, which should make cutting in the corners easier as well. And finally, I've got my heat done. So I'm gonna have another go at this now with the new equipment and see if that works better. And if it does, we are onto a winner, and we are gonna wrap all of the inside of all the drawers using this vinyl wrap rather than sanding and painting, which is gonna make my life so much easier. So yeah, let's go. Update on the kitchen cupboard project so far. So it's going pretty well. I've managed to get all the first batch of shelves and cupboard doors all sanded and primed and painted, and they're looking really nice. I'm really happy with them. I've also, as you saw earlier, tried out some wrapping, and again, I think that works really well. So while I was doing the wrapping though, you will have seen that one of the drawers was really quite rotten and a bit busted up. So it's not in a good state, and frankly needs to be rebuilt. So I did have a try with some timber that I had from a pallet. It's not really up to the task. I'm gonna have to buy some actual timber that fits and will slide into the drawer properly, and it'll just look a lot better. While I was doing that, while I was doing the wrapping, I figured out that the drawers all have like a front piece, and that to make wrapping easier, because I'm going to paint the front pieces, I took the first one off. Now, what I discovered is that the majority of them basically look like this underneath. That is not glue. That is years of grime and dirt that has built up in between layers, because a lot of them have like a little layer of cardboard for some reason in small spots, which has allowed stuff, there you go, like that, which has allowed grease and whatnot to seep in. So I'm really glad I actually figured that out, because I've taken them all off now. I'm going to give all of those a clean before I wrap them. So that's the plan for today. Once I've got these all cleaned, then I can move on to sanding the parts that are going to get painted, getting those primed, and then while the primer is drying, I can get going with wrapping the actual drawers. The two drawers that need to be replaced, that's a project for later in the week. As I said, I need to get some timber first, so I'm going to have to go to the shops and figure that out. But yeah, we have a plan, we have forward motion, I'm happy, so I'm going to get going. Hi everyone, and welcome back. So the great priming, sanding, and painting escapades 2026 are at an end, or at least they're at a point where I can stop for the time being. All the drawers are done, the doors are done, and the shelves are done. It's looking really, really good. The top cupboard frames are also all done. Again, really happy with the way they've turned out. Got the right primer in the end, so everything's stuck properly. Got the right paint this time. Didn't use a stupid spray gun that was with diluted paint. Learned a lot of really important lessons, so it went really well. Very happy. All right, job for today. Kitchen counter's got to come up because that's getting replaced. That's going to let me have the lower cabinet frames. I need to figure out what I'm going to do with those. I really don't want to have to go through what I went through with the other ones, but I may have to in the end just purely because they'll look stupid otherwise. But we'll deal with that later. I have a wall sander as well, which we're going to try out later today, which is hopefully going to get rid of all of this old crappy plaster that held the old tiles on and the stuff that was behind the cupboard, because I need to figure out how we're going to route some more stuff, because I'm lifting everything, which means that this exit for the old extractor fan needs to move up to probably about here. Also, I'm going to be having LED lighting underneath the cupboards. So what I thought I might do is I might run another quick channel up one of these two, or maybe even up both, although there's really not a lot of room left behind there. Or maybe even put an extra junction in here and have that run. But we'll figure that out later. For now, need to crack on. The year is running away. It is 2nd of March today, so wow. The days are just flying by and then the weeks just disappear. So I'm going to get on with it. Thanks as always for watching, and I'll be back soon. Hi everyone. So we are progressing with these cupboards. On the final stage now. Basically, I have pulled away all the countertop. I've prepped everything. I've gotten rid of all the dust and muck and everything as much as I can. Next stage now has been sanding, which I've already started. I didn't get that on video. I've got a bit more sanding to do, filling in some various holes. Then what can only be described as some very slapdash channeling for pipes is going to get tidied up. So I have nice clean edges on that. Put the new holes in for the gas pipe conduit for the cooker. And then it's the same as with the other stuff, priming, painting, and basically putting everything back together. So hopefully next few days we'll have this done, and then the kitchen cupboards are done. We can move on to plastering and tiling in here. So let's get on with it.
I left a couple tools out to dry and someone decided they would be a great place for a nest. So now I have 2 dove eggs on my windowsill. I guess I won't be using those tools for a while. Bird updates coming up later in the video. We are actually getting towards the end of the kitchen cupboard restoration project. Everything's been mocked up. I'm happy with the way everything sits. I've also tested out this, it's called a miter joint. Basically what that does is it lets me join the curved edge of the countertop, which is on there, to the straight edge of that countertop over here, and keep it all nice and neat. Now there are ways of using routing tips to join them together seamlessly. I don't know how to do that. Everything I've read said be ready to screw up a number of times if you've never done it before. I can't afford that. This top is quite expensive and I don't really want to replace it because it is 3.5 meters long. So we're not doing that. We're going to use this. Also, I have these edge pieces, which are for the edges there, which have been cut, which will need covering. I've got the right special kind of glue from the shop, and that will then get glued to the edge, and then it gets filed down using this to get it all nice and neat. The other last bit I need to do is that corner edge needs to be cut so that it's curved, so that it matches that. So I'm gonna get a stencil, I'm gonna get that mocked up, and then the scariest thing of all, we're gonna cut that so that it's right. I'm a little bit petrified if I'm honest with doing it, but look, we have no choice. I don't want to have a hard edge on that because one, it will look weird, and two, I'm gonna run into it every time I come in and out of the kitchen. So let's get that mocked up, and then we will measure 5 or 6 times and then cut. And then lots of adhesive, put it in place, glue it down, and then use some wood screws just to finalize the fitting. And then we can move on to the tiling and all that. So let's go. All right, as I've mentioned, I can't afford to replace the big piece of the countertop. Now, I do have a couple of spare pieces that I got. This one being the smallest of the two, so it's the one that I'm going to sacrifice to have a test cut. Now, hopefully, if this all goes well, I'll only lose a few centimeters off the end and I can see something else. But I'd rather screw this up than cut into that and make a mistake there. So, because it's quite a sharp edge, and I'm a little bit, honestly, I'm a bit scared of doing it. So we're gonna see. All right, let's give this a go. We'll see how it goes, and then we're gonna try it on a more hard angle and see how that goes. I'm primarily concerned about how it's gonna go through the laminate that's on top. So let's have a try. Wow, okay. So that actually cut really well. Okay, I'm happy with that. I'm willing to risk that. All right, time for the big boy cut, I guess. No point in fucking around. What I might do though is I think I'm gonna score that with the knife so that it comes off a bit cleanly on that edge. All right, let's try it. Okay. Use this as a guide. Score this edge piece here, so when it cuts through, hopefully it doesn't chip off that edge. Same along here. Just get the score. I'm going to be covering this later anyway, so I'm not too worried about that. It's been on there. Okay, all right, we're gonna go from this side across. Go to the sharper edge. Make sure we're not touching anything underneath here. Smooth that over a bit. Yeah, all right. Okay, here we go. This is it. God damn. Alright, got whirled.
dust on some eyes, you probably wear glasses, but then I wouldn't be able to see properly. So this is the price we paid. Okay, so finally, this is the bad boy that we use for this. Okay. Didn't quite get that edge exactly where I wanted it. That's okay. That'll look quite nice. Alright, let's flip her over and let's have a look at the damage we've done. We're back in a sec. Okay, so it's pretty good. Minor issue looks like the blade on my jigsaw is not straight, which is a bit annoying, but we can straighten that using the file, so I'm going to do that now. What I might do, I might see the sander after that. Well, I have to say, I think that's pretty nice. Yeah, and of course that will get covered there, the edge. But that's pretty good. Test fit it and see how it looks. Alrighty, another update, I guess, before we put this down. This comes with like a paper cover underneath. I had initially thought this was like a wrap thing that you just peel off and then... Anyway, that's not the case. It is stuck to it. But I'm thinking I'm going to use some really strong adhesive to screw this on, while I am also going to use screws. It seems a bit silly to glue it to the paper, and it makes more sense to glue it to the wood. And seeing if this stuff comes off quite easily, and I do have a scraper, I think I'm just going to remove it all. Also, it'll make it a lot easier to maybe paint any edges I might need to underneath if I decide I want to. And then I'm not going over paper. So I'm gonna do that. I think it makes sense. I hope I'm not doing something really dumb, and that you're supposed to leave this on for some reason. But it is just paper. There's nothing special about it. So I'm sure it'll be fine. Anyway, I'm gonna do that now. Cool. Big day is finally here. The kitchen cupboards have been fully restored. The new countertop is in place. I do still need to do those edges, which I'm going to do first, but once I've done that, it is going to finally be time to start tiling. Now, initially, the plan was to use these tiles because I got a really great deal on them and I've got enough spare. I was going to do them the same as the bathroom, sort of offset and brick pattern. But what I realized on looking at it a bit closer was I was going to end up with basically like a third of a tile on the top because of the sizes, and it was just going to look a bit not really ideal. So what I ended up doing was I got another great deal. Again, shout out to GMCA in Paphos, and they got me these bad boys. Really nice 60 by 60s. they're going to fit really well. Basically means we have a single tile at each spot. Cut the sides, and it'll fit in here just right. Hold on, let's see. Right, there we go. Let's see if it still does. Yeah, there we go. And it will sit like that. The extractor bit's going there anyway, so that's fine. And that will run all the way along. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to work out from the middle, because that's kind of the focal point, and then along over here past where the sink is going to be. I do still also need to cut out where the cooker and the sink is going, but that is easy enough to cut and then route out later. I've got those all ready to go. So currently don't have electricity because lots of us already are doing some kind of work. So next couple of hours, I'm just going to do these edges, as I said, and then I'm going to crack on with the tiling. So yeah, exciting times. Let's go. Let's do this. Okay, so this is my first attempt at cutting out the sockets. Now, I did screw up a little bit. Unfortunately, I wasn't paying quite enough attention on my first bit of cutting out of one of these. Here we go. And the bit kind of got away from me, so this is going to end up being a test piece, I think. So I don't want to put that on there. It's only a little mark, but still not the point. Anyway, let's see how close I got this. Now, hang on, because the electricity is actually on at the moment, so we're just going to go turn that off quickly. Because that is live and it is potentially going to be wet. So actually, you know what? Let's be sensible. Let's grab a bag. Health and safety and all that kind of fun stuff. OSHA, to our American brethren. Yeah. Fuck me. That is pretty much. I mean, it's not bad, it's not perfect. Pull the cover. Down, where's the cover? No, you fucked it. Too big. God damn it. Okay. Alright, learned an important lesson there, I guess. Need to go smaller. Can't be as big as that. Yeah, you've got way too big somehow. Fucked up the measurement. Alright, well, it was a test piece. We just have to be more careful. Alright, well, that's our first attempt ever. So, you know what? I'm gonna live with it. I can still use some other stuff. Shame we're cutting around the middle a bit. Alright, looks like once again I have proven that I don't really know what I'm doing. Not entirely sure how I managed to get the measurements quite that wrong, but look, it was always planned as a test piece. I've never done that kind of cutting before using those bits, especially on an angle grinder. So, you know, I planned for some wastage, so we're fine. It's okay. I have also realized that I don't know why I'm trying to measure this exactly when I can just use these as stencils. That instead of me having to do all these measurements just means I just need to measure from the laser line to the bottom corner, from the bottom corner to the where I want to go, and then from that corner to that corner, that corner down here, and that down here, make sure everything lines up on here, scribe it out, and then do the same cuts, and then that time it should work better. So we're gonna try that now. All right, let's go. Okay, that's everything cut and test fit. So I guess now it's just time to stick with the wall. I've got everything prepped. I'm gonna mix up some adhesive, and then we're gonna work from a laser line out from the center point, and then we can move on to the next thing. So let's go.
With the tiles in place and cured, I use the edge pieces to finish off the rounded edges on the counter before I have to clean up all the grouting spaces in between the tiles. There were quite a few bits of snap plastic from the leveling system to remove, as well as some leftover adhesive. I used a combination of plastic grouting tools and a Dremel to get rid of everything to have it ready to apply the grout. We are flying. I'm loving this. Tile grouting is on. I've used a light gray tile grout instead of the white. I thought it would look better. I was right. That does occasionally happen. I've also measured up now for the next phase, which is cutting into the countertop to sink in the gas hob and the sink. I'm a little bit terrified because obviously a lot of work's going into putting this counter in, and it is now fully secured and there's no way I'm getting it off again. So I'm going to put some tape over it to try and minimize any chance of chipping. And then I'm going to cut it. I'm going to drill first, make some pilot holes, and then I'm going to cut it with the jigsaw. Then I'm going to drop that in, test fit it, make sure that's okay. I'm going to do the same with the sink. And then I will move on to getting the doors onto this and the shelves and everything else, and one last coat of paint just to finish everything off. So we're nearly there. It's going to be great. All right, let's crack on. Once I'd made the first cut, I remembered the issue I was having with the jigsaw on the counter. Now, I won't hear bad things said about Parkside generally, but this thing is a bit of a disappointment. The base on it is completely off angle, and although it does have a way to adjust it, this one just will not go straight again. So it's back to the classic angle grinder, this time with a wood disc. As always, it did a great job, and I should have probably just used it in the first place. Let's get these sockets wired up so I can stop using tools plugged into wires hanging off the wall. Remember when I said I would paint the drawers if I didn't like the wrap? Well, in the weeks since I've wrapped them, they've already started to fail. So guess what? It's time to sand, prime, and paint some more. Yay! While that primer was drying, I learned a whole new dislike of cabinet door hinges. These damn things took way more attempts to get straight than should be allowed. Just when you think one edge is right, the other one is just off enough to make your eye twitch when you look at it. Right, primer's dry, time to get them painted. What do you think of my replacements in the foreground? I made those, and they fit. Alright, spent about an hour trying to get these drawers back into these slots, which, should be pretty simple. But turns out there's actually two different sizes. There's three that are 14.5 centimeters deep and one that's 15.5 centimeters deep. Now, in my brain, that means the bigger one goes at the bottom and then the three smaller ones go above that. But getting everything to align has just been a huge pain, and it's just not working, even though I'm using the original screw holes and everything else. So instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the shelves in, then I'm going to align the front plate, and then I'm going to clamp that in place, and then I'm going to screw them on that way, and then hopefully that means they're really nicely aligned and won't, be out of place. So let's do it. Also, you've probably noticed I've not been wearing my baseball cap much. I am wearing it to hold the mic, but I can't really wear it at the moment because I learned an important lesson yesterday. When working on cupboards, when you're painting them with the door open, be aware of what's above your head, because I stood up and gave myself a right old egg on my head. Just fully stood up, cracked into the door. Good news, doors are really secure and don't break easily. Bad news, I've got a big lump on my head and it hurts when I wear the baseball cap. So, cap's going off. Fun and games, all part of the ongoing cascade of injury, part of this project and the blood I'm giving to the households. So anyway, beside the point, I digress as usual. I'm gonna get on with this. Let's go. So just to be clear, the reason I wear the baseball cap all the time is because I am a clumsy idiot. And no less than 20 seconds after I recorded the last comment about me cracking my head, I bashed my head with the tip of the drill. I'm an idiot. God help me. What am I doing? Anyway, so I have this on my head now. All right, let's get going. You gotta keep working. At this point, I was really happy with the overall look, but see if you can spot the problem I'll reveal shortly. In the meantime, the one issue I was having was that the drill tip kept punching through the formica at the back and also leaving big marks at the front. As it happened, little had these great little drill depth guide thingies, which spin so you don't leave a mark on the surface. Now, I know these are quite common things in building and carpentry, but they were new to me. As they didn't quite have the right depth needed, I just used the old trick of adding some electrical tape to get the depth perfect, so that just the very tip of the drill poked through, and I could drill out from the back to make a really neat hole. Here you can see what was happening before and after I started using the tool. It's a noticeable difference, and it saves me more painting in the future. Alright, so to borrow a phrase from a fellow YouTuber in New Zealand who also does DIY and renos, I have had a visit from the fuck up fairy. I was using this and this as a kind of guide to get myself a nice straight level line and to get the holes level. And although I'm very confused, this is level. I'm guessing it's because it's hanging off that side. Oh, that's why. Okay. Yeah, you're an idiot. Now, I thought I was being all super smart and clever by using this tool to measure the exact distance between the two spots, which is not bad. That's still correct, that's fine, which is why the holes work well. But I thought I would level it, being really clever, doing this on top of here. Now, if you, I don't know if you can see it on here, but if I do that, and it's level. The problem is that I use this and this as a positioning to cut the hole. Not sure if you can see, but those are offset by about 2 mil. So of course, when I drilled the hole, I've drilled each hole a couple of mil lower, which means that when I put the handles on, they are quite obviously on the piss. So what I'm gonna have to do is fill these 4 holes with wood putty. I've also realized I've probably done the same thing on all of the other handles, which is really annoying. I think the vertical ones are okay, but I'm probably gonna have to redo all the horizontal ones. I'm gonna go around and check them now, and then I'm gonna pop the hardware shop. I'm gonna see if I can get some gray putty, because although this stuff is fine, it's a pain to sand back and everything else. So I'm gonna check all the handles now, and then we'll go from there. All right, back in a minute. All right, been to the shop. Quick run up to Super Home. Got some wood putty. So I'm gonna fill all these holes in. front and back, and then once that's all cured and dry, I'm actually going to offset them slightly and just put them a little bit higher probably, so that I'm not drilling through the parts that I've puttied, just for my own sake. Also, I've dialed in now the size of the drill bits so that I can properly recess them. I've got that process down now. Look, I thought I might as well take the opportunity to do this job properly. I'm not happy with it. I've put too much work in, as I keep saying, into this kitchen for it not to be just right. So I'm going to do that. I'm also waiting for the new oven hood and the oven to turn up anyway, so I might as well just get on with this, and then once that's done we can move on to the bathroom at long last and finish that off. So let's crack on. Let's go. New plan, very similar to the old plan, but this time using a laser level. I've marked out the location for the holes. I'm going to be using that as an initial guide point, then I'm going to punch in the next hole using this time purely to measure the distance between the two holes. Then we're going to move the laser line along. We're going to do these 5 first, then reposition, do these 2, reposition, do these 3, reposition, do those 4, and so on and so on and so on until we have all the holes in the right places. In line, straight, horizontal, everything we want. So let's get going. Last little thing I've got to figure out for this kitchen before it's done. I got these lights because I want under counter lighting. I was just going to do LED strips, but I found these little the other week. They're really cool, and they chain together, which is nice. So they can go underneath. One issue with them is the switches are on the side, and I want to mount it like this, which means that on one side of the kitchen, the switches are going to be behind. Also, they're individual switches, so I want to be able to just flick one switch and have them turn on. So I've got these inline switches, which I'm going to wire up, and then I just need to drill a hole through there and down. I've got some conduit as well, so it shouldn't be overly complicated, I think. So I'm going to give it a go, and we'll see how we get on. Here it is. I cannot tell you how honestly proud I am of this. It's turned out amazing. One of the things about this is I've done this all on my own, so there was no help involved. It was initially supposed to just be take the cupboards off and give them a lick of paint. It's turned into a complete remodel of the kitchen. Granted, there is still a couple of bits to do at the end where I'm putting the fridge and the dishwasher and washing machine on the other side, but that's going to be done when I do the last of the plumbing. The actual kitchen itself is done. We've got a brand new gorgeous oven that has a bunch of different settings and does cool stuff.
I've kept the gas hob because I love cooking with gas. I love cooking generally, but gas is a lot better. And I thought, you know what, let's stick with it. I have canisters, so I'm running a line out of the wall. It's already preset and ready to go. I got a new hood as well. The old one that I had planned to renovate was just a mess inside. It was rusty. The electrics weren't quite right. I just didn't trust it. So I got a great deal on this, 79 euros from Electroline, which is brilliant. The cooker as well was an amazing deal. I got that for 280 instead of 560. That was one of the last ones they had. And it's the same brand that happens as my hob. So all works out brilliant. I've also got my lights working. Yeah, just so happy. So thanks to everyone for watching and sticking along. I know this has been a huge, long one, but there was so much work involved and I just didn't want to miss out on any of it. So thanks again. It's time to move on to the bathroom, get that finished off so that we can then finally get to sanding and painting the house, doing the last bits and bobs, and hopefully actually moving in. So once again, quickly, thank you to everyone and see you soon.
Just before I sign off from the video, little bird update. They obviously hatched and then turned into bigger doves who flew away and are now nesting in the trees behind my backyard.